And we're okay if you're in the back because you have to get some food or leave early. We're okay with that. Don't worry about that, okay? But come all the way up front to a seat that has a note card and a pen. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. And could one of the volunteers please bring a marker so we could write on that board at some point? Thank you. So we'll wait for everybody to come up to a seat with an index card and a wonderful pen. It's a very special pen.
Thanks, dear.
Thank you. Okay, so if everyone can move up to a seat that has a note card and a pen on it. That's in the first 3 rows. And again, for people who've just come in, if you have to leave for lunch and that's why you were sitting in the back, we're okay that you sneak out. But this should be so engaging you probably won't want to leave. We have to do it our way. All right, now that you're seated in one of those seats, if you could pick up or stand up and move your chair to the side of the room. Literally. Now that you're in your seat, if you could please stand up and move your chair to the side of the room. You can just move your chair. Yeah. I know this, you're like, what? Huh? Stay with your chair. Stay with your chair. Bring all your stuff, your note card, your pen, everything with it. This is working out great, right? This is so annoying to them. I don't know that we're going to be able to come back in a semicircle, though. I think we just have them come squeeze, come back and just. Yeah. Where'd my bag go? I have to get my bells. Now you need your chair that had the note card on it. They're magical note cards. If you really would like to, you can. Go ahead. Yoga is supposed to be about flexibility. We'll be a little flexible, not too much. So we're just waiting for everybody to get their chairs over to the side of the room. Try to find while I do this, like see if someone has a set somewhere, like around and someone has bells. Yeah. And now that you have, for those who are coming in, who just are coming in, come up to the front and please find a chair that has a note card and a pen on it, and then just move your chair to the side of the room. And we'll just continue while people are coming in and doing that. For those who have their chairs at the side of the room now, if you can just please put all your stuff on the floor, remove everything from your laps, make sure that any coffee cups or tea cups or water cups are out of the way from being spilled, and then allow your feet to feel firmly rooted into the earth. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Take an exhale out through your mouth. Inhale in through your nose. And I invite you, if you wish, to close your eyes on your exhale. Inhaling, sitting up nice and tall. Exhaling, turning your palms facing up with the back of your hands resting comfortably on your legs. Another deep inhale. And then exhale, make 2 gentle fists with your hands. Eyes again either open or closed. And if they're open, maybe softly gaze down your nose. Take a nice slow inhale in through your nose. Exhale out through your nose. Then with your next inhale, connect your pinky fingers and thumbs, taking 5 breaths. Exhaling out for the count of 5. Connecting your ring fingers and thumbs, inhaling in for the count of 5. Exhaling out for the count of 5. Connecting your middle fingers and thumbs, breathing in for 5. And breathing out for 5. Connecting your index fingers and thumbs, breathing in for 5. And breathing out for 5. And making gentle fists again, inhaling in for 5. Exhaling out for 5. Releasing your fists. Slowly inhale, open your eyes. Check in with how you feel. And then very slowly stand up. Take everything that is on the floor, place it on your chair. Being aware of what you're doing, how you're doing it. And then keeping the same feeling that you have right now, using your breath, not letting anything drop off your chair. Please bring your chair back to where it originally was. And then take a seat. So welcome to Sacred, Secular, and Silly. How to do that in your schools. Obviously, you probably felt there was a huge difference between having you move your chairs and move them back, and we'll get to that in a moment. So we thought that we would introduce ourselves. This is us. And we'll talk about the two of us in a moment. The woman in the middle, sadly, is the principal of a school, and her mother was brought into the hospital last night. So she was on her way to Washington and then had to turn around and go back to Easton, Pennsylvania. So we'll sort of ad-lib for what she might have said in this presentation. We really apologize for that. That's us, being a little bit silly, being a little bit naughty in the Modern Art Museum in New York City.
Hi, everybody. That's me. I'm Cheryl Crawford. I'm the co-founder of Grounded Kids and the founder of Atlanta Yoga Movement.
And that's me. I'm Debby Kaminsky. I'm the founder of Newark Yoga Movement in Newark, New Jersey. That's Darleen Gearheart, who is a principal of one of the schools in Newark, New Jersey. So we thought today you have postcard or little index cards on your seat and pens. We thought that if you had any questions during the course of this presentation, write them down, and then also please write your names and your emails so we can keep in touch with you. And in the event we don't get to all your questions, we'll collect the cards at the end and make sure that we reach out to all of you. So we thought our roadmap for today would be to really give you some tools of what we've learned and some of the things that we do. Some of them may be new to you, some of them may be, oh, I'm already doing that, or oh, maybe it inspires you to do something a little different. This will be a very interactive presentation, and we're really excited to hear all the things that you have to say and all the things that you're doing as well. And Cheryl, before we even get started on all the different basics, let's talk about our prerequisite here.
So what we have found is if you're teaching children's yoga, you need to have a sacred practice yourself. It might sound kind of obvious, but just want to let you guys know, like that's what, the more sacred your practice is for you, the more you have that practice, the more you do for yourself. The more meditation that you do, the more sacred it's going to be when you teach. So have that practice. We're not going to ask each one of you what your practice is, but we have found over the years that the more that we're teaching, the more we need to amp up our meditation so that we can hold space. And that's a question a lot, like what does that even mean in order to hold space? And it means that you're able to walk into a room and be there for everybody without worrying about what they're going to say, what they're going to think, what they're doing, just being there for them. I like to visualize it as my heart is just expanding throughout the whole room, which is what I'm trying to do now. And when I speak from here. I try to get my voice to project from my heart as opposed to even from my throat, from right here. And so in order to do that, for me personally, I have to do a lot of meditation, a lot of chanting, a lot of mudras, so much so that I can keep doing that, and I see the effect of it. So that's the best thing that you can do in order to hold sacred space for your students in the schools.
And just to add to that, I think that I'd love to know, who are you in this audience here? How many of you are educators right now, just so we have a sense? And as educators, keep your hands up if you're actually implementing some yoga yourself in schools or mindfulness. Okay. And then for the others here, how many of you are yoga guides and either bringing yoga to children in a school or also in a yoga studio? Okay. So who are the people that didn't raise their hands? If you could just give me a sense. Are you social workers or, okay, social worker, great. Are you using breathing or anything with you? Okay. Perfect. Okay. Okay, excellent. Anyone else that we missed? Yes. Physical therapist. Okay, excellent, great. So, I mean, there's great applications here as well. We found, oh, I'm sorry, yes. Okay, fantastic, great. So, again, feel free to ask questions throughout, and then we'll also have time for questions at the end. Cheryl talked about the holding space and what she needs to do and what I need to do. I actually started meditating every day over a year ago, which for me is super type A. Not being able to sit still, this was a big deal. And now for me, meditation is like brushing my teeth. I mean, Cheryl was sleeping this morning, I was already finished, you know? And so, but what it does is, especially if you're going into some really tough environments too, things can be really frenetic. And you need to come in as this calming force in the space, right? How you actually walk in, how you show up. You know, I'm in Newark. Things happen. There could have been a shooting the night before and the whole school is traumatized, and maybe I didn't even know about it, and I have to come in, right? So you have to be really ready for everything. The little thing that we did, that was on purpose, because we really wanted you to feel, I don't know, how does anyone want to tell how they felt when they moved, when we just asked you, we didn't say anything, it's like just move the chairs to the side. How'd you feel? Okay, you tell me, because you took a different seat. Now, go ahead. All right. Right, right. And, you know, and here's the reality. You go into a school And, you know, sometimes I have to teach in a library. And now the students have to move the chairs and the tables when you get in the room. And they just move them with all this noise, right? And you've screwed it up. So an example of what I've done, and I read this somewhere, I don't know where, I can't give the credit because I don't remember who it is, but somebody actually put a cup of water on a table to move something. So the next week I actually brought a bowl in filled with water, and I said, all right. I said, let's take a few deep breaths. We were standing, we centered them a little bit, and then said, let's move the table without spilling the water. And it was amazing. Did you all feel the difference when you brought the chairs back? What did you feel? What happened? Yeah. More centered. Yeah. Were you still pissed off, by the way? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Right. You're right. One of my mottos is you have to do what you don't want to do because it's what you need to do, and it's what your body needs too. But an interesting comment that you said there. Think about this. You might walk into that library, you might say, all right, we need to move the chairs and the tables. You might not, as a teacher, let's move the tables. And we have an opportunity to make it sacred. We have an opportunity to make it mindful. And that's why we did the experiment, to show you what can happen in a very short period of time. Okay?
And we're also going for having everybody in the class feeling connected. So you will have you'll have children just like we have here on the outskirts. Not that you don't want to feel connected, but you all have your reason. And you're working on inviting them to come together, because that's energetically better for your practice and better for you when you're all together and you don't, like all these chairs in between, sometimes it just makes it harder if you're trying to practice. So those of you who are on the outskirts, see if you can come in a little closer. We dare you to do that. And we know it's not comfortable, but see if you can do it. So like somebody can fill up a couple of these chairs, and those of you way on the end that we can't see, like some of you are from New Jersey. So that way we are more connected. Does that make sense? Yeah, that was a joke. Well, because they're from New Jersey, I know them. That's why I said that. You are? So I'm from Atlanta, so we all like to, we all like to hug a lot. But that's sacred space. Anybody else have something they want to share about space, holding, what that means to hold space? Abby? Can you all hear her? Can you hear? Okay.
Awesome. So there you go. Okay. Well, then you're there. The person who gave me the thought is right here.
Yay.
Abby.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And then it's not really yoga. We're just in our head. So that's the key, like just what Abby said, is everything can be sacred. You can find sacredness anywhere, and if you live on purpose like that. So everything you do, make it on purpose. It's not like, okay, now we're going to do yoga. As soon as you enter the room, they know that you're going to hold the space for them, and there's something that they're going to do for a specific reason, because what we want for them is to take these skills out of the classroom. And it doesn't mean they're going to be doing triangle pose at the grocery store. Who cares about that? But are they able to respond instead of react? Are they able to breathe and think purposely about what they're doing? Okay.
Did you have a question in the back? Thought?
Good.
Can we invite you, friends who are back in Baltimore, to come forward a
You
little
can bring your
bit?
rocking chair
You
up.
could bring your rocking chair. And does anybody have a set of Tibetan bells on them? You don't carry them? No? No, I wanted the real Tibetan bells.
She left them in her suitcase.
Mine were in my bag. So
We'll get to the
moving
next one.
on with the Tibetan bells. So you have to always be flexible and, ready for anything when it comes to yoga. And I think that's really one of the most amazing gifts yoga also gives you, is to really, I'm not flipped out that I forgot my bells. I just got something different. That's all. So sacred sound is another way of really bringing some sacredness into your classes. And I can give you an example that in some of the schools we're in Newark, New Jersey, teachers, the whole school has a set of Tibetan bells. And we say bells instead of whistles. So, it's interesting because you have to be careful, those of you who work with special needs students, just from the auditory response and how it's received. So we always start very quietly with bells, yet the sound, the vibrations, it's such an amazing thing, and what it does for the students, what it does for you. So let's just take a shot here at this and see how this wonderful chime sounds to all of you. So again, check in with your feet. Let them be gently pressing into the earth. And let that earth be in any place that you really love. So my feet are pressing into the sand very lovingly. Taking a deep breath in, deep breath out, and just listen. And very slowly, if your eyes were closed, let them open up. This is just some examples of an educator using the bells and also the students. And it's a great thing when you have the bells or you have a bowl or you have a chime. It's also, it's a ritual type thing that you can do in a class. I think my particular bells, I've probably had about 3,500 students ring them. And there's a teaching moment there too, because the bells are heavy. They're surprised. These bells are handmade, so they know if they drop, they will crack. They won't make the sound anymore. So they have to be very respectful of these bells. And what happens, how one child passes it on to the other, is a really very special thing. Did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we broke this up because yoga, to teach them that we are all made of breath, sound, and light. That's what we're made of. That's the yoga. So that's the breath, the sound, and the light, what you're bringing into them. The sound really matters, and that's one way that you can do it with the chimes. And Debby, one of her art teachers at her school, is so funny. He carries them around on his neck, and he just says they're magical. So he loved to see that you can ring them, and all of a sudden it gets kids to get grounded. So I think that's so cute that he carries them on his neck. You can also use a singing bowl. The music that you use, obviously you probably wouldn't want to use like chanting unless they ask for that. But there's certain music that you can use that's very sacred. And one of the schools that I'm in Atlanta, where the principal has said she wants it to be part of their culture, the yoga part of their culture. It's a Title I school. Half the students, their parents are incarcerated. And she wants a singing bowl, because that's what I use when I go in to the classes. And she wants one for every class. So in Atlanta, we're having each yoga studio. Hi Joey. Each yoga studio is going to donate a singing bowl for the classroom at this particular school. And so we're curious to know if anybody else uses sound in their work in schools. It's different. Or how many of you do use it? How many of you use sound, like bells or Tibetan bowl, singing bowl? Okay, how many of you use something different with the music? What do you use? Hey, Kelly. The vibratone, can you tell everybody what that is? And where can we get it? It's online.
Do you have it on you? Okay. What do you use?
Vibratone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you always want to ask too about, like when you're meeting with the principal, show them your stuff, show them everything that you're going to do, ask if it's okay. We're going to get more into that, but you can bring that stuff in and just see. And that this school, this particular principal really wants that.
Cheryl, we have a question over here. And just so you all know, although some of you have projecting voices, we need the mic so the live stream people, so they can hear us all around the world. Okay? So you had a question?
I just wanted to say that I use the singing bowl. It's funny that I work in daycare along with the other places, and all the babies were crying. And I told the teachers, I said, watch this, and I hit the singing bowl, and they just all stopped, and they looked at the bowl, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I also used Kira Wiley. I swear we're not, well, I love her, but her music too, and it's magical.
Right, exactly.
Thank you. I actually use the bells with educators when we're doing a professional development, and if you have 70 educators in a room and they're all talking, and they don't know about the bells, and I just ring them once, and it is, I said, yes. I said, welcome to the magic bells. And then they're like, where do we get it? Where do we get it? So it's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so we want to talk about number 3.
Yeah,
this is you, girl.
We're all made of breath, light, and sound. And often kids, what is in their, sometimes first of all, it's hard for them to focus on their breath. It's hard for us sometimes to focus on their breath. How many of you focus on your breath all day? Like you don't do anything else, but you focus on your breath. Or how many of you can focus on your breath and have conversation? Yeah, so we're going for that. I know a lot of you practice that, and that's what we want to be able to do, is always know what our breath is doing. And so to help them focus on their breath, as well as bring in that light, that positive energy, their right to feel joy, you can do a bunch of different things. And the first thing is you can say to them, think I'm breathing in while they're breathing in, think I'm breathing out, just so they get that. And then you can start to bring words in, so that when they're breathing in, they're trying to make that word, they're amplifying that word so it's louder inside than whatever is going on for them. And when they're exhaling, another word. What I have found works really well is when you go into a school, when you say to them, what are you working on as a class? Is there anything that your teacher's always wanting you to do, or maybe as a group you have something? And a lot of them will say, yeah, we fight, or excessive talking, which I know didn't come from a kid, because kids aren't like, you talk excessively. That's not something they would say to each other, but they've been hurt. They hear that all the time, and it's like, okay, so if you talk excessively, what words will help you? What words that have one syllable, because it's easy for one syllable words to think when you breathe in and you breathe out. What words will help you listen more, so that you're not always talking? And so that's how we've been doing it. So we're curious to see, like, what's something that you guys think here at the Kids National Yoga Conference we could all together work on? What we need to cultivate? Yes. Yeah. So hum. But we're thinking of English words. Oh, so calm. Oh, so calm. Oh, I like that. Do that with, come on up here. Teach us that. You guys ready? So
Use the
have your
mic.
hands ready. Okay, tell us your name. Beth. Okay, ready?
Okay, so close your eyes. Hands are open.
So calm, so calm. So calm, so calm, so calm, so calm, so calm.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I feel so calm.
I love that. And what does that sound like to you if you know that mantra?
So hum.
So, yeah,
So hum.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought you were saying.
Yeah, me
So
too.
I'm like, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like this is what I have found. After a while, you can tell the principal, well, there are these mantras, but I don't know if it's okay. And she's like, well, tell me more about it. I'm like, well, there's been lots of study on the, and on the Kirtan Kriya. She's like, send me the research. She's like, I'm going to talk to the parents. Let's see what we can do. So, so we'll see about that. Okay, you have another one?
Use the mic.
Yeah. Right. They did? That's even sweeter. That's like, and the kids turned it into so calm. That is really powerful. And it's easier to do, the one syllable. Yeah, okay. All right, so see how you can do that? Yeah. About mantra, about saying intention? Breathe with intention. Yeah, this was for you. This wasn't, yeah, but yeah. So I like that. So you can, to a principal, you could say, breathe with intention. You can say to the children, we're going to breathe with intention. Yeah. If you have that concern. It just depends where you are, whether you're comfortable or not using the word mantra.
And just to add to that too, all of us are in areas all over the country, and I think that things that have come out in other presentations is every place has its different sets of rules, and even schools within school districts have their different sets of rules. And it's most important for you to know exactly where they are, and you start slow, and then you build from there. I don't think any of us are going in and talking about Hindu gods and goddesses and stuff like that. It's not appropriate for schools. That's not secular. Children love the different mudras. And we'll get to that on the next slide, too, because it's very interesting, especially when you're in inner city and we're talking about some of these mudras. They're gang symbols. So what do you do? Do you do it or do you not do it? Right? So you'll find out in a second. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about the breath? Or
That's really important about the breath.
suspense?
Suspense.
We are a comedy team, in case you didn't know. Wait until Cheryl brings you her unscientific research. It's very interesting.
Does that make sense with the breath and the words? Okay. And then they can start to, then we teach them to say it outwardly, and then we teach them to say it inwardly. And so I like how you did that too, how you can do it out loud and whisper and silent, and then whisper and out loud. That's how we do Satanama. And eventually you want to teach them to do it just silently in their head, to think. That's one way that they could learn how to really focus on their breath, how to be more aware, how to meditate. That's what meditation is. So that, and tell them, like, all the other thoughts that you have, just let them be quieter. Like, turn up the volume of your inner intention, your inner words. Make those louder, like you have a volume button inside.
So here we are on mudra, and if, again, you're not comfortable with the word mudra, maybe you say gesture, maybe you say intention, but, you know, in this case, it is some sort of movement that we're doing with a position that we're doing with our hands. It is a gesture in some form. It is a mudra. Everybody, please check out your feet again. Isn't it interesting how we just sort of get into the little slump mode, right? It's hard to sit still, which is why we're doing all these little breaks in between, and we'll be having you on your head soon enough. So, okay. So sitting up nice and tall. Take a nice inhale through your nose. Slow exhale. And then inhale your hand to your heart center, whichever hand you'd like. And then take an exhale. Inhale your other hand on top of your first hand. So some of you may have one hand on top of each other. That's fine. That's exactly fine. It's how you interpret this. Allow your eyes to close if you wish. Feel your spine sitting tall, not slumping against the chair. And then to yourself, very simply, say, I am, and fill in your name. And then exhale your name, I am. And just continue that for 5 more rounds on your own. I am. My name is great. Exhale. And then slowly inhale, open your eyes. Exhale, release. So that's a sacred yet secular way of really bringing people into themselves. And then you can go one step further. We can talk about different hand gestures. So I did talk about, well, what happens with this, which is a gang symbol? What happens, right? We still do it in Newark because I'm in schools where we're comfortable enough to take the opportunity to give new meaning to something that they think means something else. And that's a very interesting scenario. At first there's resistance, and then the calm happens. Then it's a whole new scenario. So with mudra, we did one mudra before where we started with our pinky finger when we did our focus 5. So start the other way now. Connect your thumbs in your first fingers. On both hands, you can let them rest on your legs if you wish. And you can go the gamut. You can go simply, peace begins with me. So it would be peace with the first finger, begins with the second, with third, me, pinky. I think I spoke to a gentleman last night who was doing that in Michigan. So this is, it's a very easy thing to do. And let's just try it. It's the same scenario as our So Calm person introduced, which is starting loud, regular voice, and then we go to a whisper, and then we go inside. So that we can really connect with ourselves and get ready to bring what we are now manifesting outside into the world, which is why then we go whisper and then we go out loud again. So just do 2 rounds each, just to, in saving time. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. Whisper, peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. To yourself. Whisper, with me. Peace begins with me. Out loud, peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. Just take a nice breath in, relaxing your hands. Exhale. And if you closed your eyes, feel free to open them. We're not going to go through the next one, but another thing that you could say is, I am ready, I am steady, I am clear, I face fear. And you can go through that, which Teachers love that in their classroom. And the thing that's so great with these things, just like they were talking about last night, Wa was talking about with nursery rhymes and things like that, these are things that people remember. These are meaningful things that people can take out into their life to remember that peace begins to me. We're purposeful saying this stuff, and they say it to each other. And what happens if we keep saying this to each other? We start a movement, a good one. We start cultivating change. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so the other part about being sacred, of course, is the yoga practice is always an invitation. It's never forced. So we never want to force children to close their eyes. We never want to force children to chant. We never want to force them to do mudras. You can introduce them as an invitation. You can even have them pick one that resonates with them, or pick a finger that resonates with them, or have them keep their hands on their heart, or one hand on their heart, one hand on their belly. But again, always ask the school teacher, the principal, make sure the parents are aware of what you're doing, and then teach them, like, make sure that you've practiced the mudras and you know what they stand for and they work for you before you bring them out into the school. To do a lot of work yourself and practice with those, and then think, oh, I really want to teach them this mudra because it really resonates with me. And you can say that too, that this is what it does for me. I'm curious to know what it does for you. So that's how we address mudras. Okay, so now we have your own creative sacred space, and it's hard to see, I think, because the light's beaming on it. So what I have found, when we're going into schools, like those of us who go into a school, it's hard to sometimes it's hard to bring stuff, and we definitely don't want to bring like statue of Ganesh or something, or even crystals. You have to be very careful what you bring. You can bring flowers, you can bring a plant, because those are sacred. But when you are creating something, lesson or materials that you are bringing into your school, created in your own sacred space. Where you do your work, that's a place where you can create so that it gets that vibration. And so, and that's what I have found very effective, that it's just really meaningful when you bring that into your class. And here's another example of, like, this is part of something that I've been teaching, yoga by numbers. So I put the stuff that I'm about to bring into a classroom, I put flowers around it and things that are meaningful to me, that are sacred to me around that. I don't bring those things into the classroom, but I bring that into the classroom. Yes? We have one of our boys from, I think, like 9 or 10 years ago in the Grounded Kids Yoga. He designed all of our poses. So, and we have them colored. We had postcards, the colored kind, and we ran out of like over 1,000. So we were going to print again, but what I thought was, I want to connect with the kids and more, like have them more connected to these poses. So now we have the outline of them so that children can draw. So a child painted that. And but we do sell the postcards and the directions how to get into the poses, yes. But I didn't want to talk about that at this presentation. No, it's okay, but we do have it, gogrounded.com. Okay, and then, yeah, so teach with purpose. This is important because what we see, like from Debbie and I, we hire people to teach for us in the schools, and what we have found, like what we get grants for, what, for instance, in Atlanta, what United Way likes to see, what Kroger likes to see, who gives us grants, is this purposeful teaching. So if you're going in there saying something that's not purposeful, then there's no reason for it, you know? So they're like, so how do you teach with purpose? Make it yoga. So take something that is yoga, that you know, that means something to you, and see how you can bring it in a secular way. So for instance, this is from a curriculum called Yoga by Number. And it's taking the numbers and how you can embody the teachings of the number. Like 0, what do you want to be empty of? What do you want to be full of? So the kids figure out their intention. Like, I want to be empty of anger. I want to be empty of jealousy. but I want to be full of love and joy, things like that. And it goes, different numbers. And with animals, like what we see is a lot of teachers come in, they're like, let's pretend that we're a bear, let's pretend that we're a snake or whatever. And just, how is that yoga? So, but you could bring in, for instance, like a bear, like the grip of a bear. What do you want to grip onto? What do you want to ungrip from? Or the skin of a rhino. What do you want to be sensitive with your skin? And what do you want to just you want negativity to bounce off you, things like that, so that if you're doing poses with the animal shapes, they have more of a purpose. Does that make sense? So like make it make it yoga. So they're going to learn something about themselves, thank you, with what you're teaching. And there's lots of curriculums out there that do have that, and there's also some that don't. So be really careful of what you're bringing in. And also, what will come to you is when you have your own practice, then that will make more sense,
I left it up there. I was just going to say another curriculum that I admire so much that Cheryl has created is really this yoga by letter. And if you think about even just a bee, and let's say, okay, well, you're going to ask the students a bear or whatever, what's a bee? But it's also really making it purposeful. Think about what is it that you would like to keep inside yourself and bring into yourself that starts with a B. Balance, breath, right? Just for example. And what are some things that you'd like to really get rid of and not have with you? Bragging, bullying, etc. These are very meaningful things, and you can create entire classes with this in keeping with our time. Next slide. So pose with purpose. What do we mean by that? Everybody please stand up. We'll give you a very quick example. You do need to move a little bit. Turn sideways if you would, just so you have the space. Stepping 1 foot back about 3 feet. We're preparing for a warrior one. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bend your front knee. Inhale your arms up. Feel your feet pressing into the earth. Being nice and strong, being tall. Breathing. Yippee. Okay, exhale, release your hands. And Cheryl will take you through the other side in a way that I think is a lot more interesting than what I just did.
Please switch sides. Think of your forward leg as your commitment and your back leg as your intention. So consider what it is you are committed to right now and put that into your front knee. And your back leg is your intention. And keeping that with your legs, stretch your arms up. So you need to add the breath to it as warriors. Lift your belly up a lot. Lift it up like fire. Lift it up more than you want to. Lift your arms up. Lift your fingers. Keep the commitment in your front knee. Bend it more. Keep your back leg really straight. Face soft. And then bring to mind the breath. When you bring in, think so. When you breathe out, think calm. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good. Bring your back foot up to meet your front. Look up. Breathe out. One hand to your belly, one hand to your heart. Good.
Beautiful. Did you see the difference in that? I know I sucked, right? That's not really how I teach. I just wanted you to know. That was just for example, just like I'd never have you just move the chairs without saying anything. Okay, I just want to make that clear because Cheryl looks a lot better than me right now. All right. Meaningful endings. There's been a lot of discussion about how you end a class. The thing is that you always want to have a sign-off so that people know that it is going to end. In Newark, it's fine to say namaste. It actually means a lot in Newark. We had a high school student who added the word hey, so it had a little bit of urbanness. Hey, namaste. It's okay. If it's not okay in your area, there's other great sign-offs, but have a sign-off, and Cheryl has a few other great examples and some insight.
So again, ask about the sign-off, see if they make sense, see if they're appropriate for your school. And namaste has been totally fine in the schools that we have been in Atlanta. But you can also, So I think you guys might have heard about this newspaper article that was in Atlanta last March. There was a school, it wasn't one of our schools, it was a school in the county where they weren't allowed to say namaste. It was they were doing a mindfulness thing, and they weren't allowed to say namaste or bring their hands to prayer. And so the newspaper, they called me to get my opinion or what is namaste. And so from that, a producer called me and wanted me to have my own kids yoga TV show. And so I thought about not, keeping it without saying namaste and all that. So I told the students that were in the show, I said, we're not going to say namaste. We're going to say yippee-ki-yay, because yippee-ki-yay means joy and it rhymes with it. And so we were trying it, and they're like, yippee-ki-yay feels great, but you got to put a namaste in it, and it rhymes. So that's the name of the show. So we say in Atlanta now, yippee-ki-yay, namaste. That's actually the name of the show. You could just say yippee-ki-yay, but what the kids said is it's very uplifting, and you want to leave grounded. So yippee-ki-yay is uplifted, namaste is grounding. What I always say to the kids is also face the world, whatever you have taught them. Like if you've taught them about calm, like how to go from, how to get to calm or how to get to joy or anything that you are working on, your intention, face the world, refresh, or it could even be refreshed. That's another thing that you could say that's English, like face the world that way, and that's a send-off. Sat Nam, if that's appropriate for you. Sat Nam seems to be totally fine as well. And that's what we say in our high schools, because the high school kids love the whole meaning behind Sat Nam. But in high school, they sign up as these are the classes where they sign up as an elective for yoga. And so in that case, you just get permission and they'll, see what you can do. Yeah, so those are some ways of sending off, but it's nice to have it as a ritual and a sacred way.
So taking risks. We think that yoga gives you an opportunity to take a risk, and sometimes sometimes children, we like to take a risk, right? In the library, in the principal's office. So this is like expanding and taking a risk with permission. So that's a really cool thing.
Because if I think about Atlanta, for instance, like in some parts of Atlanta, the kids, their anxiety is what are they going to eat when they go home? Is someone going to be home? There's other parts, other schools where it's, oh, my mom's going to get upset because I got a 98.5, or, I have all these things I have to do. So and they're all across. What's universal for all of us is the pleasing thing. How many of you are pleasers? How many of you are reformed pleasers? You guys all look young. Once you hit 50, you'll start. You want to reform that. So, like a lot of these kids are pleasers, and I wanted them to release that by the time they went to middle school. And I said, if you don't get sent to the principal's office, I will not certify you to teach children. And so they had to come up with something. And those two girls, they're like, we'll do double dog dare on the principal's office desk. I'm like, okay. So I try to get them to take risk, and that it's okay if somebody doesn't think what you're doing is great.
So we're going to beg for 2 more minutes because we have 2 very important other things to say, so I hope that we don't get in trouble. Number 10 is to make sure that you have fun, and we did have an example for you, and if you stay afterwards, we'll do that example because we want to get through something else, which is number 11. Very, very important. Make sure you question everything, and we'd like you to just sit once more, allow your feet to go back onto the earth. Allow your eyes to gently close if you wish, or gaze gently down your nose and just breathe and listen. Listen to what you hear. Maybe your breath.
Today, after 77 years of life in a world that's both astonishingly beautiful and horrifically cruel, sanctuary is as vital as breathing to me. Sometimes I find it in churches, monasteries, and other sites designated as sacred, but more often I find it in places sacred to my soul. In the natural world, in the company of a trustworthy friend, in solitary or shared silence, in the ambience of a good poem or a good music. Sanctuary is wherever I find safe space to regain my bearings, reclaim my soul, heal my wounds, and return to the world as a wounded healer. It's not merely about finding shelter from the storm. It's about spiritual survival. So many of our troubles, personal and political, come from either or thinking. For example, when I'm talking with a person who holds religious or political beliefs that differ from my own, either or thinking can create a combative situation. I'm right, so he or she is wrong. Therefore, my job is to win this argument by any means possible. How rarely such encounters bear fruit. But both and thinking can lead to something much more creative. Maybe I don't have everything right, and maybe he or she doesn't have everything wrong, and maybe both of us see part of the truth. If I speak and listen in that spirit, we both might learn something that will expand our understanding. We might even be able to keep this relationship and conversation going. Think of how much more civil and creative our conversation across lines of difference would be if we thought that way more often. We'd be working to create a container to hold our differences hospitably instead of trying to win an argument. Of course, like everything human, this issue begins inside of us, in how we hold our own internal paradoxes. If we can't hold our inner complexities as both, and instead of either or, we can't possibly extend that kind of hospitality to another person. So here's an ancient truth about being human. We cannot give gifts to others that we are unable to give to ourselves. That's why inner work done well is never selfish. Ultimately, it will benefit other people. Parker Palmer.
Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Just sit with that for a moment. And then slowly open your eyes. And our time together has sadly come to an end. However, we're here. And we also have handouts up front. I put them in 3 piles. So you can have a copy of that wonderful inspirational Parker Palmer poem, and also a copy of the slides, as well as just a little yoga tip card that we give out to everybody at Newark Yoga Movement. If you're inspired to do something like this on your own, I say go for it. And please bring your index cards up with any other questions in case we didn't answer them, and it's a great way for us to stay in touch with you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the question everything means, like, if someone's told you not to do something or to do something, question it. Listen to your heart.